Start linking up those projects and linking up those thought processes, because we're at our strongest and we can make most difference when we're really working together. And that's not just with organizations within a country, that is going countrywide across the migratory route. So
hello, my name is Sacha Dench, but I'm better known as the human swan. I'm also the UN's ambassador for the Convention on Migratory Species. This year, the charity I founded, Conservation Without Borders, is launching a new expedition to follow the flight of the Osprey, an epic migration of 10,000 kilometres through 14 countries from Europe to West Africa. As a part of this, we're doing a series of podcasts to highlight the global stories and connections this bird makes, to help us see our complex and challenged world through the eyes of this incredible animal. In this week's episode, I speak to McCubbin about how the lives and dramas on the Osprey nests kept people across the country gripped and sane during lockdown, keeping us together just as COVID was keeping us apart, and also how bringing people together is what drives change.
Yeah, so obviously we've just set off on our journey following the Ospreys, but I would love to know whether the Ospreys were important at all in your falling in love with nature in general.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always loved predators and predatory animals. The birds of prey fall into that category brilliantly. And as a lover of the water, ospreys for me are just kind of the pinnacle of birds of prey. I love going to see them. I can sit and watch their nests forever, and then I get so excited when they return again at the start of the breeding season. So yeah, for me, the osprey symbolizes a lot, and it symbolizes a really successful conservation story. So it's a symbol of hope, and what's not to love? These amazing birds that have the most incredible adaptations to catch fish under the water as you see them diving in and rear these young in this massive nest on the top of trees. I mean, what's not to love? Ospreys are the best.
And obviously during lockdown, you were part of the self-isolating bird club. Did you find that the Ospreys played an important part or important role for people in staying sane during lockdown?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when Chris and I started Self-Isolating Bird Club, we totally underestimated, we just never expected the community to form the way that it did. And for this kind of unity amongst people, just finding a little bit of respite and a bit of escapism in nature. And it was wildlife all around the world and people coming in to talk about various different subjects. But there was certain characters that resonated really well and really drew people in together. We had Vix the fox was a really big character. We had goshawk stuff and everything. But for me, I remember SIBC thanks to Ospreys. And we followed the story of CJ7, a female osprey who lives and is part of the translocation project from Birds of Poole Harbour and the Roy Dennis Wildlife Foundation. And she was just, I don't know, I feel such an affinity for her. I feel so emotional talking about her because she's such a beautiful, resilient character. And we watched her in 2020, hoping that she was going to be the first female to breed in the south of England for over 200 years. And we watched her as she came in on time, everyone was really excited, and she started displaying nesting behaviour. So whilst we were all in lockdown, we were all staring at this kind of live camera screen, watching her as she was nest building and kind of creating the dip as they do inside their nest for the eggs to go in. And we just held our breath and crossed our fingers that a male would show up in time. And every day went by and she was displaying more and more behavior, but there was no male. And one morning we woke up and she'd actually laid an egg. And that was incredibly exciting because it was still the first egg to be laid in the south of England for over 200 years. But sadly, it was unfertilized. There was no male. So she was kind of this roller coaster story of conservation that I think so many people connected to, and so many people loved her and were rooting for her. It's this big romance story and massively anthropomorphizing everything, but it's what we needed in lockdown. Everyone needed a bit of that kind of hope. And it's been great to follow her over the next couple of years. 2021, we again hoped that a male would show up, and eventually he did. But he's a young male. He's juvenile. He's called 022, but he showed up a little bit late to nest and breed successfully. So it was this year, 2022, when CJ7 and 022 finally managed to lay eggs and rear chicks, and I'm really pleased to say that it was successful. 2 females hatched. Sadly, VH1 passed away recently due to a goshawk incident, but VH2 passed away, sorry. VH1 is still doing strong. So we're really hopeful VH1 is going to go down on her migration, follow in your footsteps across your journey, and she'll make that trip this year and hopefully return next year. So it has been a roller coaster, but I love that bird more than anything. She's brilliant.
We are going to go and try and find as many as we can, as many of the birds that we see in the UK whilst we're in Africa, with help from lots of people. Just as an aside, for anybody who wasn't watching the Self-Isolating Bird Club, how many people did you have watching as a maximum?
It was unbelievable. The numbers kind of kept going up and up, and we streamed live to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and I think by the end of it we had over like 1 million views collectively. So there's a real core group of SIBCers that would watch, and there was 5,000-6,000 every episode, but and it all collectively added up, and people started watching it religiously. People watch it on repeat even now, which I just think is amazing. It's quite a humbling experience.
Yeah.
And speaking of humbling experiences, we have spoken to people at about 10 different projects already, and I wondered if you had any messages for people. Some of the ones we've spoken to are individuals, some working for organisations, but basically people all along the flyway working for the conservation of migratory species. Some of them we found have some support, some of them have very little support. Have you got any particular words for them?
Personally, I would say thank you. Thank you for all the work that you do in supporting, these amazing species. It takes an army, because it is incredibly hard with migratory species. We often think that conservation efforts have to be focused in one place, but for something like an osprey, which flies, thousands of miles to get to where it's going, we really have to think about conservation in the bigger picture. Borders at the end of the day are a man-made construct. We have put this divide there, and we work within those divides, which is quite bizarre, really, when you think about it. So, my message is to the people working on the ground is thank you so much for doing what you're doing. Keep pushing with it, and keep being collaborative. Keep talking. Knock on your neighbour's door, whatever country that might be, and start linking up those projects and linking up those thought processes, because we're at our strongest and we can make most difference when we're really working together. And that's not just with organisations within a country. That is going countrywide across the migratory route. So keep pushing through, keep going with it, and just keep talking to each other.
Thank you very much. And last one before we go, as the team, this is their first day that's not been full on working, I'd say. They are having a beer actually behind me.
Good, well deserved.
And eating French cheese. Yes, have you any message to them to keep us going? Because we've got another pretty intense week coming up.
Honestly, Sacha, I'm in awe of you and your entire team. Like, the work that you do for these species is just unbelievably amazing, and I'm going to be following on every single mile that you do, waiting to hear updates, and I'll be supporting from back home, but just keep up the amazing work, because there's so many people here and across the world that are inspired by you, and you're kind of leading the way in creating awareness, so lots of people are going to learn from you. So keep pushing forward, because we all take our hats off to you and are really appreciative of everything that you do.